Good evening and welcome everyone. My name is Eddie Pounds, an attorney with the law firm O'Malley, Miles, Nyland and Gilmore, and I'm also the general counsel for the Greater Bowie Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to attend the 31st Annual State of the City Address. The Greater Bowie Chamber of Commerce is a nonpartisan organization whose mission is to protect, enhance, and promote local business by providing a voice for business at local, county, and state levels. We represent over 6,000 employees and companies in the Greater Bowie area. I'm now proud to introduce Terry Rogers, President of the Greater Bowie Chamber of Commerce. Terry.
Thank you, Mr. Eddie Pounds. You want to start off by saying that you have provided an invaluable service in helping to organize this evening's State of the City address. And I want to publicly recognize you for not only the work that you have done for this event, but the countless times over the years that you provided sage counsel and advice and many, many unbillable hours to the Greater Bowie Chamber of Commerce. So with that being said, good evening, everyone. I am Terry Rogers, and I have the distinct honor of serving as this year's president of the Greater Bowie Chamber of Commerce as we bring to you this 31st Annual State of the City Address. I'm extremely excited that you are joining us on this occasion to hear from our Mayor, Tim Adams. Mayor Adams is an accomplished community leader with more than 30 years in business, government, and philanthropy. On November 18th, 2019, Mr. Adams was sworn in as mayor of the city of Bowie. He is the first African American to be elected in the 138-year history of our wonderful city. So without further ado, it is my honor to present to you my neighbor, fraternity brother, and mayor, Tim Adams.
Good evening. I'd like to start by thanking the Greater Bowie Chamber of Commerce for the opportunity to present the 2020 State of the City. Thank you for your efforts to make Bowie a great place to live and work. I'd also like to thank city staff for their behind-the-scenes work to make the event a success. And lastly, but most importantly, thank you to the Bowie residents for watching. It is a great honor to speak directly to the over 60,000 residents of Bowie to give my first State of the City address. The state of our city is strong, and we are standing stronger together. 2020 has been a year of unimaginable change for Bowie. Tonight marks almost 1 year since a new mayor and 3 new city council members joined our city's leadership. And then came the worldwide COVID-19 pandemic, which has disrupted all of our lives and changed our community in so many ways. But even with so much change, some things remain the same. The spirit of the city of Bowie has been that of community. But I believe the current COVID-19 pandemic has actually reinforced the idea that when we stand together, we are stronger and able to overcome all adversaries. I want to start tonight by speaking about the unprecedented health crisis that has impacted our lives in various ways and highlight the city's stellar response to it. The COVID-19 global pandemic is one of the most dangerous challenges that our city has ever faced. Everyone listening has been impacted in some way by the virus. The worst way is from having lost a loved one during the time of the pandemic. And my heart goes out to you. Many more have also lost their job or had their incomes greatly reduced as a result of the economic downturn. And all of us have been impacted by the stay-at-home orders, face mask requirements, teleworking, and social distancing. While we are all united in experiencing the impacts of COVID-19, we are also all united in our efforts to overcome the virus too. I am so proud of our city staff, particularly our Office of Emergency Management, our public works, and our frontline workers, police, firefighters, and medical professionals, who have all risen to the challenge to take care of our residents and ensure our city remains at peak operations. Working closely with our federal, state, and local partners, our city government has taken significant action in various ways to help residents in need that are suffering from the financial impacts of COVID-19, including ensuring families have access to food by hosting food giveaways with the local food bank and working with Employ Prince George's to distribute gift cards to hourly workers who lost their jobs due to the pandemic. In fact, the city made a $20,000 donation to this fund. Additionally, the city has worked with our Office of Grant Development Administration to coordinate food drives, where non-perishable food items will be available to Bowie residents. Each weekend from now until November 14th, Bowie residents will be able to drive through one of our various locations and pick up their food package. Thank you to the city staff, our Bowie Police Department for assisting in traffic control, and the Department of Community Services for assisting our residents. Our city's grants office is also working diligently to secure grant funding to help the homeless and to provide legal counsel to tenants and landlords regarding their legal rights under state and local moratoriums on evictions. Our city has also created a program to help renters who have been affected by the pandemic to stay in their homes by assisting in making rent payments directly to property owners. But in addition to providing direct support to residents, the city has provided assistance to keep businesses that employ Bowie residents afloat during these difficult times. The Greater Bowie Chamber of Commerce is at the forefront of helping our Bowie businesses adapt to the current challenges presented by COVID-19 pandemic. The Chamber's motto is educate, advocate, and connect. And now more than ever, the Chamber is demonstrating leadership in the Bowie business community by 1, educating business owners, 2, advocating for government resources, and finally, and connecting local businesses with the tools to not only survive, but excel in the current economic climate. One example is the launch of the Chamber of Commerce's Commerce Business Resource Center that serves as an online virtual one-stop shop for providing educational resources to Bowie-based businesses seeking strategies and resources to address their COVID-19 business recovery needs. The Bowie Chamber is also delivering a series of online business education and resilience webinars to help keep our business community thriving during the current economic downtime. So many Bowie residents are employed by or operate small businesses. It is essential that private sector organizations like the Chamber continue to work with the city to support local businesses during these very difficult times. The city also has a long-standing partnership with the Bowie Business Innovation Center on the campus of Bowie State University, and it has always been a tremendous resource for businesses that are just starting out. In response to the current economic and health crisis, they have adapted their services and expanded their mission to become the go-to source to help Bowie businesses navigate through COVID recovery and support programs. I want to thank the entire Bowie BIC team for their valuable services provided during this crucial crisis. Working with the Bowie BIC Incubator, the City Council created a program to work with the Greater Bowie Chamber of Commerce to assist local small businesses. The city has allocated $200,000 grant for this fund. Through another BIC partnership, this one between the Bowie BIC, the Prince George's Economic Development Corporation, and the FSC First, county businesses are receiving support that they are learning tools to help them to stay afloat and to thrive. These are just some of the ways our city government has partnered with the business community to provide support for our residents. But I have also witnessed a tremendous outpouring of support from city residents and neighbors helping neighbors. Numerous nonprofits, temples, synagogues, and churches have stepped up during this crisis to provide volunteer relief to those impacted by the virus, demonstrating yet again that we are standing stronger together. Just one prime example is our Neighbors Helping Neighbors program that shifted from being primarily a house fix-up program to one that works with volunteers to provide masks to seniors, go grocery shopping, or pick up prescriptions for them, and provide rides to doctor's appointments. Over 100 residents have volunteered for this program. People who volunteer do not do it for the glory, and their work often goes unnoticed. But we want them to know that their volunteer efforts are needed and extremely valued during the crisis. So the city established the Faces of Kindness program to recognize some of the hardest working volunteers. Some of the honorees so far include a retired nurse who made more than 1,000 masks to give away, a fourth grader who started her own mask making campaign, a leader of our local Girl Scout troop who stepped up to the plate to keep the organization running, and several others who selflessly sacrificed their time and money to support those in need. I believe these examples and others underscore that we must remain united to overcome this pandemic. As we continue our efforts to monitor the situation and prevent the spread of the virus, we also have to continue our efforts to safely reopen our city to provide for the needs of residents. Today, we remain in phase 2 of the reopening plan as ordered by our county executive, Angela Alsobrooks. However, our recreational facilities have reopened with social distancing and safety precautions in place. City Hall has opened 4 service windows to assist the public with code compliance, animal control, permitting, and bill paying services. All internal meetings are being conducted virtually, and all city staff that can telework continue to telework. The city continues to follow strict CDC guidelines for social distancing and personal protective equipment, and we encourage all residents to please do the same. Our best bet to keep everyone safe in the weeks and months to come is to layer all of the protections we have available. Masks and social distancing remain our most effective mitigation strategies. We must remain vigilant, and we cannot let down our guard as we continue to follow the science and reopen our community safely. While our city has navigated through the initial impacts of the COVID-19 crisis, health experts are warning that a resurgence is possible later this winter, as well as the onset of the flu season. The city will be releasing information regarding our follow-up for drive-through flu clinics. So please go out and get your flu shot. It is more important this year than ever before. I am reminding residents to remain vigilant, and I am confident that our city staff, working alongside our county, state, and federal partners, are prepared to keep Bowie residents safe and healthy until this crisis is over. We are committed to ensuring that our city government has access to all the resources they need to get this virus under control, stop the spread, and save lives in our community. While I cannot tell you when this pandemic will end, I will tell you that we have all overcome challenges before and that we will get through these tough and difficult times together. I believe we will also come out of this pandemic with a new sense of community and a better understanding of how dependent we are on each other. I now want to discuss a related topic regarding COVID-19's impacts on our city's finances. From Washington, D.C. to Annapolis, government leaders across the country are grappling with the significant economic impacts of COVID-19. The city of Bowie is no different. The mandatory shutdowns and stay-at-home orders were necessary to save lives, but they also had an unfortunate ripple effect of greatly reducing government tax revenues, including revenues here in the city. Given the economic downturn caused by the COVID-19 pandemic and expected decrease in state and local tax revenue, the City Council is carefully examining the city's entire long-term financial outlook. The latest estimate from the city's finance team shows that city revenues are down approximately $1 million below budget and are expected to continue to run below estimates for at least several more months. While the negative impacts of the city's budget are real, the city remains in a strong fiscal position, and I, along with the rest of the council, remain committed to being responsible stewards of taxpayer funds. One reason we are currently in a strong fiscal position is that we currently have $19 million in our unassigned fund balance. This healthy fund balance will be tremendously helpful in minimizing any potential budget shortfalls. Another reason why our city will be able to weather the current COVID-19 recession is due to the City Council's decision to cancel the Iceplex project. The Iceplex project was the largest single project in Bowie government's history, and canceling it was by far the toughest decision made by the new City Council to date. It was a decision that we did not make lightly, but only after spending months reviewing the financial and operational data and receiving public feedback. The latest data from the city finance team reveals that a total of $10 million was spent on the Iceplex project by the previous city council. However, by canceling the project, we saved the city a total of $17.3 million in additional funds that can now be repurposed for other expenses, including helping during this pandemic. The City Council understands that many residents and visitors to our city were greatly disappointed by the decision to cancel the Iceplex project. That decision does not mean the city of Bowie does not support users of the current ice arena. We can enhance the current ice amenities offered in the city while also keeping the financial burden on taxpayers low, especially in light of the economic downturn caused by COVID-19. The entire City Council supports the ice community, and we look forward to working with them on a plan to address their needs in a way that makes sense for Bowie residents. That is why the City Council created an ice rink task force to give input to the council as future decisions are made on the ice rink. The task force includes 5 Bowie residents and 1 ice rink staff member. Their task will be to work with the City Council to advise and assist in developing plans to ensure that Bowie continues to provide stellar service to users of the ice arena. We are also looking into alternative uses for the former site of the Iceplex project. Over the coming months, the City Council will be working to develop potential ideas, and with resident involvement, we will make a decision for the use of the site that benefits all Bowie residents. Black Lives Matter. Every time we make a decision, we want to emphasize that we are putting your well-being first. One of the ways we do this is by making sure that each and every citizen is valued and appreciated. And we aim to accomplish this by having open dialogue and discussion regarding racism in America. When George Floyd was killed in Minneapolis earlier this year, the footage of his head on the street under a police officer's knee reignited a long simmering national conversation about unresolved issues of race and equal justice under the law in our country. That conversation is ongoing in Bowie as well. And I believe that we must acknowledge that Black Lives Matter. One of the reforms that are needed to prevent the type of violence and injustices that we've seen take place at the local level. I am extremely glad and proud to have an ally in this effort in Bowie Police Chief John Neske. His leadership and the policies in place and the professionalism of the men and women of the Bowie Police Department are a model for departments across the country. He has made it clear that the Bowie Police Department is committed to engaging in meaningful and honest discussions surrounding not only racial inequalities, but all facets of policing, and continuing to build the relationship with the community. Chief Netsky has demonstrated that he is a progressive police chief by supporting the effort to develop the first ever Citizens Review Board in the city, something that Chief Netsky supported before the recent national conversation on the subject. The City Council has also taken steps to reaffirm our city's commitment to advancing our common goal of equity and justice for all by passing a Black Lives Matter resolution that was proposed earlier this month. The resolution calls for the city government to undergo a full review of all policies with the assistance from a professional consulting firm, report findings to the Diversity Committee and the City Council to ensure ongoing best practices and non-discrimination and promoting intersectional equity and social justice. All residents deserve to be treated fairly, with dignity, and to have their humanity, existence, and contributions valued. We are making sure to continue to have conversations regarding equity through the actions of our city's Diversity and Community Outreach Committee. Tomorrow, October 27th at 7 p.m., both of our city's committees will be teaming up to bring a discussion on social justice to the Bowie community. The conversation will be moderated by committee members and will include panelists from Bowie State University, the Prince George's chapter of the NAACP, and the Prince George's County Human Relations Commission. This conversation will take place via Zoom. Attendees may submit comments, questions during the event using the Q&A feature of the Zoom. Please be sure to register online. By creating opportunities for open dialogue and by working together as a community, I am hopeful that together we can make strides to ensure that the legacy of racial injustice in our nation does not remain a stain on our society. Part of what has made me so hopeful is the fact that so many young people have been galvanized, activated, motivated, and mobilized. We have seen peaceful, mostly young protesters across our region using the power of advocacy to call for change in our society. As Mahatma Gandhi once said, we must be the change we want to see in the world. And one of the central ways to effect change is to vote for elected leaders that share the values and principles important to us all. We are at a very important juncture as a nation. We face many challenges ahead. One of the most important things you can do as a citizen is to vote. That is why I want to end my remarks by calling attention to the very important election taking place next week. We all know that a presidential election is taking place, but that is not the only office on the ballot next Tuesday. Next Tuesday, next week's election will also determine who represents us in Congress, on the Prince George's County Board of Education, and also who serves as circuit court judges to ensure equal justice under the law. There are also important ballot questions that will determine whether betting on sporting events will be allowed in Maryland and other important topics. No matter who you vote for or how you vote on these topics, the critical thing is that we all vote. The universal right to vote did not come easily. If you haven't already, make your plan now to exercise that right in this year's election. In light of COVID-19, there are now more voting options than ever before. You can vote by mail. If you have requested a mail-in ballot, complete it, sign it, and seal it. Then mail it back to the Board of Education. So drop it at one of the 42 drop box locations in Prince George's County, including 5 in our area: the Bowie Gymnasium, the South Bowie Community Center, Bowie High School, the Glendale Community Center, and Bowie State University. So far, 15,000 plus Bowie residents have voted by mail or drop box. The early voting period began today and will continue through November 2nd. The Bowie Gymnasium is one of 11 early voting sites in the county and is open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily. Due to the pandemic, There will be just 42 places to vote on election day in the county. Polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. for in-person voting and to accept ballots. But please remember that due to the heavy turnout expected, you may have to wait in long, socially distanced lines outside to cast your vote. It is not necessary to stand in these lines to drop off your mail in the ballot box. Presidential elections are administered by the county and state board of elections, and the city has no official role in this election. But we are providing important information about the process. And if you are a senior, the Bowie Senior Center is standing by to help you navigate the voting process this year. And they can help arrange ride to voting center on election day. Although again, we encourage you to vote by mail instead. Please call the center at 301-809-2300 with your questions. Let me conclude my statements on voting by saying casting your ballot demonstrates your resolve to have a say in your government. It is the patriotic and honorable thing to do. If you have not already done so, I urge you to make your voice heard by voting in the upcoming elections. In closing, Bowie is great because of the work we do together. From the mayor and city council to city staff and employees, to local businesses and nonprofits, and our faith community, to the most important element, each and every resident of our city. As long as we're standing together in common, in that purpose, our future is hopeful and the state of the city will always be strong. Thank you so very much.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much for those exciting and encouraging words. I, as a resident of the city of Bowie, longtime resident, 30 years, want to say that I actually could feel the words that you were saying. And I think that they hopefully will have meaning for everybody that tuned in and was able to hear you tonight. So again, Mr. Mayor, I want to thank you for your service to the city. I want to thank you for those words of encouragement. And I do believe and I feel that the state of the city is strong. Bowie is one of the strongest economic generators in the county. And I think that it's going to continue to be that way under your leadership. And I'm so thankful, you know, and hopeful that businesses will want to come to Prince George's County and flock here and spend their money here and employ citizens here, employ our residents here. And so we have a lot to look forward to. And we're anxious to roll our sleeves up and, as we say, to get after it, to put our shoulders to the wheel and to continue to push Bowie forward to make it the greatest city in Prince George's County. And as we once were, one of the best places to live in the state of Maryland. So I think we have a lot to be proud of here, and those good deeds will continue on. So having said that, I do know that there is an open forum right about now for residents to who have sent in questions. We're going to try to get to as many of your questions as we can. And those questions that we won't be able to get to tonight, because I'm sure, you know, time is, we don't have unlimited time.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, but we will be, this session is being recorded, and all of your questions will be posted on the city's website, and we will try to answer those questions. If you don't hear them answered here, then certainly over the next few days, go to the city's website, and you'll be able to pick up some sort of a response to your questions that may have been asked. So having said that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Eddie Pounds, and if there are any questions that you have gathered, the mic is yours.
Thank you so much for your kind words, Mr. Rogers.
Thank you, Terry. Mr. Mayor, great job. Great speech. I want to commend not only you, but your tremendous staff, the entire city council. You're doing a great job during tough times, not just in the city, but our entire nation. So that goes without say. Just want to make sure you know that.
Thank you.
And I've heard your theme, and I'm sure our listeners have heard your theme: standing together, standing stronger together, particularly during this pandemic. And as my grandmother used to say, together we are stronger, and of course, divided we fall. So I definitely want to echo your sentiments there. We have received a few questions preliminarily. But I want to encourage we're up to 31 participants, and I'm proud of that. There is a Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. We're not using chat. If you submit your questions, I will get your question, and if time allows, I will read your question for the mayor. So you just submit your question, click the submit button, and it'll appear, and only I can see it. So, and you'll see it, but no one else will. So thank you for that. Now, Mr. Mayor, you ready to have a conversation?
Yes, I look forward to it.
All right, let's do it. Let's get at it. First question, Mr. Mayor, is more or less an update, if you will. And I heard some brief remarks about this sports facility, the Iceplex that was proposed on Church Road during your remarks. But the question is, they would like an update on the sports facility complex that's proposed for Church Road. Will the proposed facility still move along as planned at the Church Road site or somewhere else? And the follow-up question to that is, if elsewhere, what will happen to the land on Church Road?
Well, that's a good question. And one of the things that we as a council are going through right now is we're looking at what we're going to do as far as recreational facilities go. As you know, we own the land on Church Road, and we have talked about initially, we were talking about putting another facility there. And we were also talking about repurposing it for what we needed. One of the things that we're still faced with is, because of the pandemic, we are still in a position of where, as I mentioned a little earlier, we want to make sure that we're being very good stewards financially. So we're holding back and making decisions on what we can and can't do. I want to say in our CIP, we probably have $33 million worth of projects, for example. But we really need to go back and look at what we can do at this time. So a part of that is something that we as a council are discussing and really haven't come to any final decisions on. And a part of it goes back to how long this pandemic will last. What are the real impacts that we will see financially to the city? And, what are the impacts? And when I say to the city, that goes from what happens from our federal dollars we can try to get, as well as state dollars. Not knowing where the CARES Act is going to be, when the new monies, if we're going to get it for the state. And so a lot of those things, we don't have a final answer yet, because we want to make sure we're good stewards and we really look at what's coming down the pike financially. But we also want to make sure that we include the residents, that we get feedback from the citizens as to what they want and what really works best for the city. So at this time, we're still looking at what the options are and making sure as we move forward that we do get the input from the residents as well.
Thank you for that. Well, let's just hypothetically speaking, if the facility were to be built somewhere else, do we actually have the capacity in the city, within city limits, to place that project elsewhere?
Well, we've talked about historically, for example, we had talked about building courts right there by the golf course on that property there. So we do have land that's available. We've had some private sectors come in with wanting to talk about some opportunities where we can get some recreational facilities and maybe even looking at a public-private partnership with that. We do have space, but again, it's one of those things where I don't want to get out ahead of our council or the citizens. But there are opportunities for us that we're looking at. And so there are other places, and just simply repurposing that land where the Iceplex was planned, because again, we own that. And we've made in some investment and the water management and other things there. So, there are just options that, again, we have to look in dollars, i.e. the pandemic and how our recovery is, will help decide that.
That's
I
fair.
will add, if you don't mind, that we're very fortunate as a city, not only because of the quality and the character of the people who live here, which I say we're the best city in the nation. And I guess I am a little biased, but we do that. But we also, because financially, right now, we get a lot of our revenue from property taxes, and we haven't seen that immediately impacted. So when we talk about we're fiscally strong, not only with the money we have in reserve, and then the additional monies that we can repurpose or use uh, from the ICEPLEX, but more importantly, we don't see a huge impact immediately to what will happen with our property taxes. But we don't know that for sure. In talking with our city finance team and all, that's what the belief is, because in the recession a while back, the city fared relatively well compared to how the property values were. And so we're trying to be very positive, but again, we have to be good stewards. And we have to make sure that we do what we need to make sure that, number one, we keep the city services, because that's the most important thing.
Absolutely.
We have to support our services, the
Absolutely.
personnel. So,
Great answer. Second question. And I see that the chat or the actual Q&A feature is lighting up. So we're going to switch gears pretty soon here and go check and see what we have there. You're familiar with the Ken Center. The Bowie Chamber actually has its main office at the Ken Center. But the Ken Center is closed due to the pandemic. And there are a number of small businesses who are actual tenants of the Ken Center. And the question has come from some of them about the future of the Ken Center, because quite frankly, a lot of the tenants there are concerned about their own livelihoods and their ability to keep their doors open. What are your thoughts about that?
well, because of the county exec's order, we are still in phase 2. And so the Ken Center is not scheduled to reopen until we get fully into phase 3. Now, I understand the hardship that the businesses are facing and the challenges and all, and I really do, as a businessman as well. I understand that. But it's about keeping everyone safe. You see, because if we open the Ken Center to everyone right now, the problem becomes, how do we make sure we clean and disinfect it so that it's safe for everyone? How do we man it with staff and those things? So those are just some challenges that we're not quite ready to face with the pandemic still, and especially now we're seeing a resurgence of it. And I'm not sure when we're going to get out of phase 2, but know that the plan is, once we get into phase 3, it is planned for Ken Center to be reopened.
So when we do get to phase 3, what do you think would be your top priority or your biggest concern, if you will, when it comes to helping businesses during the pandemic? We know about the business recovery program, that grant that you have so graciously, you and the city council and staff have so graciously provided the Bowie BIC and in partnership with us, the Bowie Chamber, to assist businesses. But what else do you have in mind that could be beneficial to some businesses that are reeling from the effects of the pandemic?
Yeah, and I think part of that is when we look at our Economic Development Committee and some of the other committees, what I hope is when we get a chance to, and I think we need to start planning that now, is actually to have the input from the Bowie Chamber of Commerce, to get your inputs, to get with the Economic Development Committee, to get with the Bowie BIC and others, and actually create a roundtable of sorts, from my perspective, to really talk about how we get there. See, one of the things is that businesses know better what they need and how to get there than for us just to try and create from a political standpoint, I guess is the best way to put that. So what I'd like to see is us sit down and talk about what's best. I mean, I have some ideas on what we could get there, but again, I try not to get out ahead of the council, because whatever we do, we work together. And that's why we talk about being stronger together. So I want to make sure that I don't get too far out. But I think what we'd like to do is really make sure that we hear from you. As you've talked about the programs that you're laying out, i.e. the Bowie Chamber of Commerce, but also the BIC and with EDC, I'd really love to hear, how those are working and where the holes are, where we can revisit and do those things. So I think it's about making sure that we come up with plans together. And when I say together, I'm talking about as a community, because I also believe that there are going to be opportunities. I think there are going to be opportunities for us to draw and to really solicit other businesses to come to our area. It's hard for our businesses right now. And we're just going to have to make sure we put every resource we can, to support you. And that being the business community. So I'm looking forward to us getting together, having a roundtable, getting some real insights as to how the programs that you're currently doing are working, and for us as a council to hear that, and then just kind of make a decision moving forward from there.
Very well, very well. You're an idea person, and your constituents are listening. In the Q&A box, there's a resident that has what appears to be a really good idea that he would like to share with you. And I'll make sure you get this person's contact information. Perhaps he's a good person to put on this task force, but his idea, and I'll be brief with this, but he's giving some acknowledgement to the fact that we're in uncertain times, particularly with the civil unrest that we're experiencing across the country. And his idea is for a program called Neighbors Helping Neighbors, where weekly meetings would be held with diverse topics covering car checkups performed by local mechanics, helping volunteers to help elderly with yard work and other issues like that. So we'll make sure you get that person's contact information so you can put them to work.
Okay.
Let's move on to a question. Okay, and I won't say the residents' names, but I'll just read the questions if you're okay with that.
Yes, please.
Okay. How can we have confidence that we are making good decisions regarding projects that get the green light? For example, the ice skating rink started, then it stopped because of funding.
And the question is, how do we know that we're making good decisions?
Yeah, particularly after something has already been green lighted, if you will.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we didn't plan on, anyone, is to find ourselves in the middle of a pandemic. And I think the hard decisions are something we're going to have to make. And how do you really know if you're getting good leadership is whether or not they're willing to make the hard decisions. And that's the key. What is in the best interest of the city long-term? What is in the best interest of all of our residents? And that can be tough, and please know that I know there are so many people, for example, with the Iceplex, who really had their hearts and soul kind of set on seeing that. And it would have been a showplace for the entire region. But we also have to make the hard decisions of what's best to make sure that worst case scenario, what if we do go into a recession? What if we do go into a depression? We don't know exactly how long the pandemic is going to last. One of the things I was telling someone is that we're going forward and those kind of things, we need to have that cash reserve, because one of the things, and you probably know this as well, and many of the business people will know, and as citizens, is that if you miss one of the interest payments, no longer, because of the way it is, Moody's, all of them have said they will immediately put cities into default. And so we have had a great record of a AAA bond rating, and we want to maintain that. And one of the ways, and the only way you can maintain that, as you know, is if we keep X amount of dollars in our reserve. And so, we had to look at that hard case because it would have been so easy to try to look the other way and not get the feedback that we got and the people who were emotionally tied to it. But it was the right thing to do. And so when someone talks about leadership, to me, it's about being able to face and make the hard decisions and understand that it's not going to make you the most liked person, but you have a chance to look in the mirror and know that you're doing the right thing for the people. And I think in the long run, that's how you really judge your leadership.
Well said, well said. But let's stick with that general topic, but let's go back to the existing ice rink. There's a question that's asking about proposed improvements to the facility there in the future. Perhaps you could share, don't get too far ahead of your council colleagues, but if you give some insight to what the future holds with respect to improvements for that facility and perhaps cost savings going forward.
Yeah, that's why we put together the ICE task force. And as I stated a little earlier, that's consisting of 5 residents and someone from the ICE arena staff. And so what we want, these are people who are very familiar with it and things, and we will have the support from city staff as well to take a look at what improvements we need to make within the current ice arena to make sure it is a place that we can all still enjoy going to and our ice community can enjoy being at. Now, again, it goes back to balancing the budget and what we can afford to do at this time and those things. But that's the reason for that, to get people who are really engaged and involved in the ice community to really give us the feedback so that they know that we're listening to them and we get a chance to see that. And, we've seen where we've had some discrepancies on what it wouldn't cost and some of those things. But I think we'll have a chance to really sit down and talk about, as a council, what we can do from a budgetary standpoint and just what the main needs are. Because one of the things we still want to do is enhance the programs there. And we want to make sure, I think, as the ICE community has talked about, make sure we reach out to even more residents to be engaged. And so I'm excited about what they can bring back to us, but that's how we're looking at that. We're going to really take a look at what we can afford, but also look at what's needed and get it from those who are engaged and get it from some experts who will come in and work with city staff. So we can know what we need to do.
How are we doing, Mr. Mayor? You okay? Do you feel like taking on a couple more questions?
Yeah, please.
Okay, we've got a few more minutes here.
Okay.
Let's switch gears to Bowie Town Center. There's a lot of activity going on at Bowie Town Center. There's Party HQ just opened up. There's a new restaurant that's going to assume the vacant Dewclaw Brewery. So I know everyone is looking forward to that. Overall, it seems like the Bowie Town Center is moving in the right direction. Yeah. But there does exist the age-old question, what's going to happen to the old Sears building?
Yes. And that again goes one like, and Mr. Pounds, I don't want to get in front of the council, get too far ahead. But I think it's been open that we've been having dialogue going on. And we are engaging the community because we want to hear what the ideas are. We've had several recommendations on different things that could go on there, that could happen. And I think as a council, we need to continue to listen to the citizens, to really understand what works for our community. We need to talk with the chamber. We need to talk with the Economic Development Committee. We need to understand what's going to continue to move Bowie in the right way. We know that we have to do uh, those things that enhance the quality of life for our citizens. And a part of that is some of the amenities, i.e., that goes with shopping and restaurants and those kind of things. So we really need to talk about that. And there is a big push to move to a place where people live, work, and play at the same time. And we're seeing that that's kind of a trend going around the nation now. And I think we've all heard it over and over. The days of the big box stores are pretty much gone. I don't see a resurgence of that anytime soon. And so it's about us being creative. But again, that creativity happens with us as a group, as a community, our business community, our city staff, and all of those engaged in the economic development for the county as well and the state. Because one of the things I think you or Terry Rogers stated earlier is this is the best place any business could ever want to come and relocate. And so, we're not gonna. I'm not gonna use that old euphemism of we're the best kept secret, but we do want to make sure that we become much more aggressive as we can in working together to develop that and bring more businesses here, because that revenue is important, but just as important, it's about the quality of life that we have in our city.
Absolutely. On that note, quality of life, there's a question with respect to multifamily housing. And the question is, do you have an update on the marketplace apartments? What is the city doing to ensure we don't have high density housing in our older, more established single family home neighborhoods?
And that becomes that ultimate challenge that we, I believe, unanimously as a city council and as most of the residents agree is we've got to figure out how to get our own zoning. When it comes to those things, even though we talk about what we do or we don't want as a council, it rises up to the county council, and really we don't have much of a say. What we do know is that where we can get those concessions of what we may be able to get and what we need to do, we have to work at that. So I say to people, we just can't be a council of no, because I want to make sure that as we look at these things, whatever concessions really we think we can get, that we put those in and we talk to developers and others about that before it goes to the county council. And I don't want people to think that we're just encouraging this growth, because most of us ran on the thing of let's slow down this development. Let's not overdevelop the city. Let's keep it where it's a livable community for all of us. But we also know the reality and being practical about it is some things we don't have a final say on, but we need to be at the table to at least get those things that can mitigate some of the challenges that do happen to our city. So I would say to all of our residents and our business community and all, as we continue to push for it, let's just hear your voices too, and making sure, we're batting for the fences here, but let's try and get our own zoning here in the city.
You're right, Mr. Mayor. And a lot of our residents may not know that the city of Laurel is the only municipality in Prince George's County that has its own zoning authority.
That's right.
The city of Bowie definitely needs its own land use powers. So I agree. We have time for one more question. And since we're on the whole zoning topic and land use and development, what are the plans for the racetrack on Racetrack Road? And this citizen also wants to know who owns it and why is it not being maintained?
Well, at the current time, it's still owned, I want to say, by the Jockey Club, and I can't think of the name of the developer. But yes, now you say that, and I don't think I'm violating anything. I was on the call today with the city staff and Bowie State University as we are working out a memorandum of understanding on the utilization of the racetrack property. As many may know, but just to inform them, we were successful in having the property be able to become uh, owned by the city. Um, and with that, though, we made an agreement and are working on that memorandum of understanding to support Bowie State University and the use. So we will be sharing that. And one of the main things we wanted to do was make sure that there wasn't development on that site. Racetrack Road was just hard. So we did that. Not only the city has historically been trying to get the racetrack property and had tried to purchase it in the past, but as it stands now, with the deal made for the Pimlico and the whole racetrack deal with the state has put in there that as they start redoing Pimlico, that they will use the racetrack facility as a training facility for several years, and then it will become the property of the city. And what we're looking to do is use that for basically just recreational and open space area, and to work with the Bowie State University along those same lines. So we have a lot of ideas for that. But one of the things that we talked about again today was just in making sure that the residents in that area, that we do what we can to make sure that we're not doing anything that causes large development, that causes more traffic and challenges to the road. So we are in the process of doing that MOU. I can't go into too many specifics. I don't think that would be fair to Bowie State or to our staff. But we were on a call again just today, walking through that. So I'm extremely proud of our staff, and Joe Beinert is doing a great job. And I would also like to offer my condolences to Joe. He recently lost his wife, but I just want him to know that we appreciate him, and he's already back trying to help us through all these things. So again, I'm really excited about being able to work even closer with Bowie State University. I think that's going to be a little treasure for not just the university, but for the city as well. And I do want to commend all the people who work so hard, our delegation and lobbyists and staff and the council as a whole, for getting that property for the city, because we control our own destiny when that happens. We just got to get the MOU done, but then we control our own destiny. So I'm excited about that.
Well, I'm so glad to hear that things are working out well with Bowie State. We have a tremendous asset in our own yard, not our backyard. It's right in the middle of our yard. And we certainly have to figure out how to better utilize that tremendous asset and the intellectual capacity that they have. I also want to extend my condolences to Joe Beinert's family. Joe has been a pleasure to work with throughout the years I lobbied for the city on a number of matters. So definitely want to extend my condolences. Mr. Mayor, you did a great job answering all these questions. I did my best to stay fair to the citizens who asked. I did not give you too many softball questions. I read it like it was, maybe ad-libbed a little bit, but I'd like to turn things back over quickly to Terry Rogers, our president. He's got a few housekeeping matters to do. It's hard to tell who's joining us on these kind of virtual formats, but I'm sure there's some elected officials that Terry would like to acknowledge, and also our sponsors. Terry.
Thank you again, Mr.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Eddie. And I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge our sponsors. We have sponsors who stepped up to the plate and agreed to support the State of the City address. They step up every year to support the chamber. And so with that real quickly, I'm going to run down real quickly, read our list here. We have our platinum sponsor, which is two platinum sponsors, BG&E and Bowie Bay Sox. Always great partners for us in the chamber. As our gold sponsors, we have the Honorable Todd M. Turner. He's the chairperson of the Prince George's County Council and District 4, of which we are a member of that district. We have NAI Michael, real estate company and developers, and St. John's as our gold sponsors. And down in our silver category, we have Capture the Moment Photography by Ro Marino, Bowie resident, and he does great photography work for us. We have O'Malley, Miles, Niles, Nyland, and Gilmore. And we represented very well this evening. Somerset Construction Company, Thrive Senior Living Facility, which is coming on board over in Melford, Visiting Angels, Widman, and Widman Financial Services. So those are our sponsors. And we want to make sure that we acknowledge them and we thank them for all that they do for the Chamber and for the city of Bowie. Also, I want to recognize our past Chamber presidents who are on this call. And in this format, of course, I can't see who's all signed on and can't see who's all out there in the audience. But I do know that our immediate past president, Stephanie P. Anderson, is on the call. And I want to thank her for all of the work that she's done and the great handoff that she gave me when I came on board as the current president. Also, it's hard to tell if there are any other dignitaries out there, but if there are at the state, county, and city level, I want to thank you for joining us. Thank you for your participation. We look forward to working with you as we move forward in this year to accomplish some of the things that our mayor has laid out as part of his vision for the city. So thank you for all of our elected and public officials who are on this call. Also, I want to say that it's been a real pleasure working with the city staff in pulling this together. Una and Wilda, it's been a very pleasure, very professional. Everything came together. We have Todd Peterson and Anthony Hogue from the city and Mark Patterson who have helped pull this together, and they're behind the scenes working on the logistics of making this happen. So to all of those, I want to say thank you. And then as I conclude my remarks, I would like to say that the Chamber is open for business and is open for your business. We are trying our best to all collectively wrap our arms around this pandemic and the business interruptions that most of you have been feeling out there. And we as citizens, we shop in these restaurants and stores and hairdressers and some of our small businesses, and we miss you. We understand that you've been impacted. So one of the things that we're doing as a chamber this year, and in the coming weeks you'll hear a lot more about this, is we're opening the Greater Bowie Chamber of Commerce Business Resource Center. And we're going to start off in a virtual environment. And the intent is to bring to you, our small businesses, a series of webinars and other resources that are designed specifically at helping you navigate your way through some of the red tape and some of the maze of getting resources to help you sustain yourself and rebrand yourself if necessary through this COVID pandemic. So you'll be hearing more about that. And these services that we are providing to you, they're going to be free of charge. We're working with sponsors, and we have subcontractors that have signed on to help us develop content that's relevant to the needs that you all are. When I say you all, I'm talking about our small businesses in Bowie. And we're doing this in partnership with some of our larger businesses that are here. So you're not out there on an island by yourself. We all are feeling the pain. But the one thing that the mayor said is that I want these words to stick with you, that we're one city, we're one family, and we're going to get through this together. And it's going to take all of us pulling together, working together. And I want you to know that the Chamber is trying to pull together as many resources as we can for you so that we can come out of this thing on the other end stronger than we were when we went into it. So with that, I know that a lot of folks are anxious to get to their dinners. I don't want them to get cold, and I know I'm the last thing standing between you and dinner in some cases. I want to say thank you again to Mr. Pounds, to all of the members of the Bowie Chamber of Commerce, our board of directors, and all of our members. I want to thank you all for joining us this evening. And remember to check the website. And if your questions weren't answered this evening, there may be answers there for you on the website in the coming days and weeks. And so with that, I want to bid everybody a good evening, and please stay safe, wear your mask, wash your hands, and remember to go and vote. And with that, good evening.